Hi, my name is Phil Spokes. I'm the Director of Spokes Education, a digital learning agency in Northampton, UK. Today I'm going to continue the conversation around building a team, and particularly going to be looking more about when you take that actual first employee on. Massive step. We're going to look at the kind of person you should be looking for. So there's always a bit of a kind of argument you see between, when you start recruiting or when you are recruiting, do you look at skills first or attitude first? I've seen this come up quite a lot, and there's some strong opinions either way. And for me, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think that if you're looking for somebody, you need a kind of senior person or someone, with that kind of experience, then obviously skills come first. You can't take someone on, even however good their attitude is. If they can't do what it is they need to do, then obviously they're not going to be any good for you. However, for me, I would always recommend that attitude plays a massive part in the people you take on. And the way I kind of think about it is, I don't necessarily expect everyone to have all the skills and all the attitudes, but what I do want them to have is a set of core values that meet the kind of values of our company and that our people in the organization already. I think that's really important. And in terms of their skill sets, again, have the core skill sets. And I might not necessarily need them to have everything at that point, but what I want them to be able to do is be able to get to that level within 6, 9 months, maybe 12 months, depending on the role and depending on what we need at that given time. So they need to show that kind of aptitude to be able to grow and develop. That way kind of gives us a bit more freedom, gives us a bit more chance to shape somebody, gives us a bit more kind of flexibility on the kind of people, that we're going to, like I said, we're not going to find that 100% perfect person. I think it's very rare you find that. So you kind of have to have that little bit of leeway. So finding, for me, that leeway comes not in the attitude, because it's really difficult to change that, but it comes in that kind of skill set. And if there's a tiny gap, as long as they show that aptitude and ability to grow and develop, then for me, that's the kind of person you should be taking on. For me, like I said, I've worked in lots and lots of teams prior to setting up Spokes Education. And the one thing that will guarantee you not enjoying working in an environment is a toxic person, which will spread. And even the best people will get infected by that, and they will not enjoy their work. If they're not enjoying their work, they're not being productive. They're not, it has a massive knock-on effect. So for me, it's really important. First things first, I always say, it's an age-old thing, but look after the team and the team will look after the business. So my job now is very much around looking after the team and making sure they're happy, making sure we're bringing the right people in at the right time, and that they've kind of given everything they need to do their job. So, like I said, this might be a bit further down the line, and like I said, it's something you should start thinking about from this point. Like I said, if you're starting to work with other people, find those people with the same values, find those people you get on with, and find those people who kind of share your values, whether that's creativity, hard work, dedication, whatever that is. Again, it's nothing worse if you've got someone in your team. If you're such a hardworking person and that person's, they might get stuff done, but they kind of have that attitude about them. Again, that might just irk you a little bit, and it might just make it a little bit harder to work with that person. Again, offset it. It might be that other things kind of offset that, and it's worth that kind of risk. But I think for me, something we've done really well at Spokes Education is take the right people on at the right time. And that first person you take on is really, really important, because they're going to set the standard for everyone else as well. So what I found when we took Rachel on as the kind of first official employee, and Mark follows shortly after that as an official employee, even though he's part of the business already, I was really, really lucky that I had my brother, who we're very similar, we're very different in our skill sets, but actually we're very similar personality wise, so that we agree on most things. There's not a lot we disagree on, and if we do disagree, then it's amicable, it's done it's handled in a professional business-like way. It's not emotional. We're not emotional people again. So, we can kind of have those discussions and it, we don't end up yelling at each other and falling out. So I'm very lucky that I've got a brother like that and who kind of complements my skills and kind of brings something new, but has that same mentality and same moral compass as me, even more so a moral compass than me, but has, we kind of share that enough of values for it to work. And then when we brought Rachel in again, she's come in from a different industry into kind of a new environment, something that she's not used to. But what Rachel did was she embraced the journey. She embraced being part of sports education, and she now treats it like it's her company, because the way we kind of worked at the start, she was integral, as Mark was, in that kind of initial growth phase to kind of get us past that point. So because she's been at that first point, she's seen us grow and she's been part of that journey. And hopefully she feels like she understands that she's been really important to that. And everyone that's kind of come in since, I want them to kind of have that same kind of attitude as well, to kind of say, look, this is my company. This is not my company. This is our company. And I want people to kind of feel that way and kind of feel like they're part of something, not that they're just a cog in the machine that kind of just churns stuff out. I want people to feel like they're part of this, and that's something that's really, really important to me. And that's something that for me will harness a really good working environment, will harness a really good relationship, not just internally, but actually with the external clients as well, because what they see as well, our external clients often, something we always get is like, you've got an amazing team. They're always so helpful, so friendly, they're so supportive. And that's just the kind of people they are. But also, we're kind of trying to embrace that and trying to kind of push that as well. And by, providing that kind of within the organization as well. So that kind of spreads out. Again, like I said, as soon as the people in that kind of toxic environment, that kind of then spreads out to clients. It spreads out to their work quality and things like that as well. So when you're kind of plugging that team, and like I said, we'll talk about that in a future video when we're looking at the business plan and looking at those people, look at it from the skill set first, think about kind of where those gaps are. But then when you're taking those individuals on, use that interview process, use that application process to really get down into that personality. And we do that in a number of ways. So we always do our application process. We put an advert out, we kind of, sell who we are, and we're trying to say the kind of person that we want, skills wise, but also personality wise. And then what we do is, the first thing that I will do if I see someone on paper that I like is I will give them a quick phone call, and I will just make sure that a few things. So one, that, okay, this person is, who they're presenting themselves to be. Two, that it's someone that, okay, I'm going to get on with you. I've had a few of those phone calls. I'm like, wow, you're not for me. You're not for us. This isn't going to work out. And not saying they're a bad person, but it's just, you could just see it wasn't going to be a fit. And that's two ways. It wasn't going to be a fit for them either. They were probably going to come in and kind of go, well, who are these people? They're not for me. So, you kind of gauge that from a quick conversation, or at least get a sense of it to kind of go, okay, no, or okay, maybe, or definitely yes. And then what we also do in a conversation is just reiterate the role, tell them exactly what, give them a bit more information, give them an opportunity to ask questions and find out a little bit more about the company and the role and what they'll be doing. Once we've kind of gone through that stage, we then might send them an assessment. So that assessment will be looking at their skills, and if it's like a developer role or a creative role, they may have sent us a portfolio, so we might have had an example of that. But now we're looking at kind of getting into the nitty gritty and kind of going, okay, can you work within our processes? Can you deliver what it is that we would expect you to deliver within a certain time frame? So, it's you can see lots from a portfolio, but you don't get all the detail. You don't 100% know that they did that themselves. You don't know how long it took them. You don't know kind of what they went through. You don't know their process they went through to get there. You just see an end product. And you might not, that might not, again, fit with the kind of way that you work. So we give them an assessment of, one, see, how they work, make sure that fits in with us, and make sure that, they're ticking the boxes for us. And again, they will get a sense of how you work, and again, gives them opportunity to kind of go, okay, this isn't for me. Once we've done that assessment, if all's gone well and they've kind of done a good job and we're happy with it, we'll then go to interview. And at the interview, primarily we talk, we kind of do our interviews in a slightly different way. We don't necessarily go through the tell us about a time you did this. We don't do that. We make it a pretty informal conversation. And what we'll do now, we might ask them about the assessment. We'll ask them about any challenge they had, anything they kind of, the kind of process they went through, and kind of find out a little bit more about work. But primarily what we do is we find out about them as a person, and we'll kind of, get to the bottom of their personality and make sure they're a good fit. We have psychometrics, and we do all that kind of stuff, and really get to understand who that person is. And for me, like I said, that is the most important thing you can do in an interview, because the portfolio and the assessment will tell you if they've got the skills that you need. The conversations will tell you if that's the person that is right for your business, and it will tell them if your business is right for them as well, which I think is a really, really important thing. We do a lot of career talks, and I always say, the interviewee should be almost interviewing the company as well. That's something you should be doing, and finding out that, okay, this is a good move for me. This is the right thing for me to be doing. So I'm aware that I've kind of rambled on a lot about that. And like I said, this is kind of maybe a little bit further down the line for some of you, but start thinking about it now. Like I said, if you get to that point where you're looking to actually recruit, as in, put something down on paper and take someone on and take that massive, massive leap, it's a huge commitment. You're now no longer just responsible for you, but you're responsible for other people. You're responsible for putting food on their table. You're responsible for keeping them happy. You're responsible for keeping them busy. It's a huge, huge shift from going from freelance, even when you're working with other freelancers, to taking somebody on a full-time basis. Something else that we did as well initially is, we took people on fixed-term contracts. Again, we didn't give them that full commitment. It does limit the pool a little bit, because a lot of people might want full-time. But again, you might want to balance and weigh that out a little bit. But, we kind of issued 3, 6 month, maybe even 12-month contracts, depending on what they'll be working on. And again, what that did, it gave us an opportunity to kind of, one, see if that's going to work both ways, but also two, gives an opportunity to go and win more work, so we know that we can sustain that person. And obviously at the end of it, like I said, if we got to the end of the 6 months, it's like, okay, well, I've got no more work for you, sorry. Then, that expectation has been set early on. You don't have to have that awkward, sorry, I'm going to have to make you, let you go, and because I can't sustain you. So again, like I said, one of the things that I always do in my teams was keep them, be really, really honest, and tell them, and I'll say, this is a situation, this is where we are, this is where we want to be. But if we don't go there, then this might happen. And again, like I said, that bit of honesty and transparency, and keeping that going throughout the whole time they're with you, again, just builds trust, builds relationships, and builds that kind of team mentality, where it kind of feels like everyone's in it together, and everyone, it's in everyone's interest for the company to do well. So yeah, think about, like I said, when you do that, when you put together kind of contracts and things, think about, safeguarding yourself in case it doesn't work out how you want it to. But also, if you're doing that, don't, make sure you're kind of transparent with that person as well, to sort of say, look, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we hope to do. If this happens, then this. If this happens, then this. And then, again, like I said, people will know where they stand, and there'll be no kind of ill feelings. There'll be no kind of uncertainty. There'll be no kind of anxieties, or there might be some anxieties, but there'll be controlled anxieties, and it will kind of open the kind of conversations as well, to make sure you can, like I say, you can control that a little bit more, and kind of give them assurances, or prepare them for the worst, or give them assurances as you need to. Like I said, it's a huge step taking that first person on. It's very scary. There's loads of other stuff involved in it, in terms of kind of finances and admin and insurance and all that kind of stuff, and we could talk about that later as well. But like I said, if you want to kind of take that little step into it, think about, say, just taking on a freelancer, almost freelancing to a freelancer, and kind of taking that first step and seeing how you kind of get on with, just managing somebody else and being responsible for someone else's workload, if you've not had experience with that in previous roles. Something else you can do as well, what we've done quite a lot of, is take on interns. So there's loads of internship opportunities. So if you've kind of got someone, you kind of go, you know what, they're straight out of university, they just want an opportunity to work on something, you can take interns and say, look, come and join me for a week or a month, or whatever that may be, and kind of do that on a rolling basis if you need to. Again, to kind of get that kind of bit of experience, like extra pair of hands if you need to. And again, like I said, over time that might be developing to something more. We've taken interns on that have kind of gone on to do more work for us. We've got an intern that's now full-time with us, or an ex-intern that's now full-time with us. And we're looking to take more interns on as well. And like for me, it's, especially at the moment, there's loads of kind of schemes, in the UK at least, where there's kind of internship schemes. I know in America, They kind of do non-paid internships as well. I wouldn't be too keen on that, but I think in the UK, like I said, there's loads of schemes and university schemes where interns are heavily subsidised. So you can get an intern for 8 weeks for about the equivalent of, I think it's about £5 an hour, or 100 hours. So it costs you about £500 potentially for an intern for 100 hours of their time. So yeah, there's lots of kind of lots of schemes out there where you can kind of tap into, and like I said, dip your toe into it, and like I said, all being well, and that can kind of grow. And it's like I said in that very first video, give yourself those options, give yourself, put yourself out there, go and find those people, make those connections, give yourself options so that that if something does come in, you win that big contract, you've got, well, okay, I've got A, B, C, let's go, let's put a team together and go. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Thanks again for listening, and if you've got any questions, as always, drop us a line. Otherwise, I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.